Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today as Senate Democrats are calling for immediate action on the very troubling news that we continue to hear about up at King's Veterans Home. Today, a federal report found, quote, substandard quality of care at King, and so we certainly need to address this situation in a very timely method, and there are certainly things that we in the legislature can do to address that. More than 3 weeks ago, after a Cap Times investigative report exposed staff shortages, improper care, and facility deficiencies at Wisconsin's veteran home at King, little has changed. And today that report again continues to talk about that story about the substandard care. And while we are here today, I am pleased to be joined with Senator Erpenbach, who has been taking a lead on this issue, Senator Lassa, who I want to credit with her hard work and dogged concern on this about bringing to folks' attention, the administration's attention, as well as Senator Bewley, who serves on the Audit Committee. We'll be talking about action we can take through the Audit Committee later this week, and then Senator Dave Hansen, who serves on the Veterans Committee. And it has been brought to our attention through these reports about the conditions there at King's Veterans Home, from urine-soaked carpeting, tainted drinking water, injuries and infections, outbreaks. Governor Walker's administration has failed in its mission to provide the best care to our veterans. And we find ourselves really in an emergency situation here in Wisconsin. The reports of neglect, understaffing, mismanagement, those are unacceptable. And what is most disappointing is the fact that the Republican-controlled legislature was warned of these issues repeatedly over the last several years, and they chose to do nothing. They chose inaction. This is an emergency situation, and today Senate Democrats are calling for immediate action to, one, stop the future raid on the veterans' homes of $18 million. We are calling for immediate action to upgrade facilities to address the needs of veterans who need care there, acute care, and Democrats will support the audit request tomorrow as the Audit Committee convenes to look at that. Certainly with the health and the safety of these veterans in jeopardy, we can't wait any longer, and we need immediate solutions. We know that there are staff shortages. We can fix those. We know that facility maintenance improvements are needed. We can fix those. Those facility improvements have been requested over a year ago and were not approved in budget requests. We know that veterans have called for better quality of life services. Let's reassess the DVA's cost-cutting measure to work to improve these services now. It has been well documented that those homes are generating surplus revenue that's being siphoned off to fill Governor Walker's budget holes. $12 million was raided from our veteran homes this summer, and Governor Walker's administration says it plans to raid another $18 million over the next 2 years. We need to re-examine our priorities, and we need to invest and improve that infrastructure at that home there for veterans and for staff and for the veterans, the families, so that they know that their loved ones have quality care. Given those serious concerns that have been voiced by our veterans, we need to stop these funding raids. We need to use those dollars for those intended purposes to provide that top-notch care to our veterans and their families. We continue to believe that an independent investigation is needed to get to the bottom of these issues, but we can't ignore the need for immediate corrective action. Republicans seem to be okay with using this audit as a delay tactic and a smokescreen while not addressing immediate actions. And while we will support the call for an audit in the future, that will likely take 9 to 12 months. That is a long time and we recognize the thoroughness that will happen with an audit. But again, we have some immediate action that could happen, and we certainly want to make sure that we are doing things in a responsible fashion, and we are respecting and giving those most vulnerable veterans who are there for care, many of them for acute care, the environment that they need to be safe. So with that, I will turn it over to Senator Erpenbach for some additional comments, and we'll take it from there.
All right, thanks, Jen. Good morning, everybody. I too am happy that the audit committee is meeting. I believe it's tomorrow, and I know Janet and Kathleen Vineout, who sit on the audit committee, will do the best they can do to make sure that the audit and the request of the audit is proper in its scope. But I have to say something. Senator Lassa, a year ago, sent a letter asking for an audit of King, and it was ignored. And here we are in an election year, and all of a sudden, we're going to have an audit because there are legislators on the other side of the aisle who happen to represent that area. And to me, it's really frustrating. On the issues of veterans issues, we are supposed to do the best we possibly can do to take care of them as they move on in life. And we haven't been doing that as a state, and the Walker administration, given the raid and basically ignoring what's been going on up at King, hasn't been doing his job either. So I am happy, again, audit's meeting tomorrow, but it's not enough. There are things we can do tomorrow. There are things we can start tomorrow. There are shovel-ready projects that need to be done that actually DVA has requested and the governor has ignored. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of projects that can be done right away. They total up to about $18.5 million. They need to upgrade the fire alarm system, the food service system, the lighting and electrical systems, replace the ceiling tiles, install new flooring, and renovation of several rooms in skilled nursing buildings. Those are all things that can be done tomorrow and started tomorrow. And one of the more important things that can be done tomorrow is a cost of about $1.2 million is to hook King up to municipal water. Right now, residents are told to run water for a couple of minutes because there are issues with water coming out of that well. Those are things that we can start tomorrow. And again, DVA has requested these and the governor has ignored these things. So what we can do, believe it or not, is the legislature, even during this election season, we can call ourselves into extraordinary session. We can find the $18.5 million. We can find the $1.2 million to hook up to municipal water, and we can do that tomorrow as well. So hopefully, Senator Fitzgerald and Speaker Voss will take these issues seriously, take this call for an extraordinary session seriously, so we can at least do some things right now, because as Senator Shilling said, the audit could be 6 months to a year, depending on its scope, but there are things we can do right now to make life better for those veterans, and I would hope that we would do that.
With the call for an extraordinary session, that does demonstrate the sense of urgency that we feel that this issue demands. And I don't want to see the situation at King turn into something like Lincoln Hills, where serious issues are flagged and then ignored for months by the Republican-controlled legislature. The investigation at Lincoln Hills has been going on for 20 months, even as new problems continue to be exposed by media such as the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and other outlets. Lincoln Hills still has problems with staff shortages, safety concerns, unaddressed facility issues, because the majority party has been slow to act, and we don't want to see that same pattern of ignoring the important issues at hand at King to go down that same path of months and months, years, that inaction happens. So really, this pattern of negligence should not be repeated, especially when it comes to our veterans and the quality of health care that they deserve. And so I think that we certainly need to hold the administration accountable, the department accountable about the inaction at veterans, at King Veterans Home, and recognize that this has been brought to people's attention for more than a year. Those stories from veterans and their families about their concern of care there, and really the environment that they find themselves in. And yes, when this legislature wants to act on something important, they can move very, very quickly. And I think that we need to come together and recognize the important situation that we find ourselves in and offer real solutions to move us past the current state of care that veterans and staff find themselves in. And once again, a common theme of staff shortages and how we can address those issues as well in these state facilities. So with that, we're happy to take questions. Do you want to add anything about the audit tomorrow?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
First of all, we all know that our veterans are extraordinary, and that is why we're asking for something extraordinary at this point. Surely the audit committee is going to meet tomorrow and do its very good work. But the audit committee is a slow and purposeful process. It is not the approach that you would take when you really require a rapid response in an emergency. And although I'm going to be diligent in my involvement with the audit committee, we do need extraordinary measures right now.
Well, I'm Senator Hansen, and first of all, our veterans deserve better. They are true American heroes. And I had an individual of mine, one of my constituents, that went to King. And when he first got there, they had recreational activities, brewer game, trips. They've all gone away. They don't do that anymore. And I've heard from so many staff that they're overworked. And there are just so many problems there. So one of the suggestions I would have is to bring our Transportation and Veterans Committee and bring it together. I know it's late, and we haven't been in since March, but that is a thought where we could bring everybody in and have a full and open discussion and how bad it really is there. And I've heard over and over again the things that are wrong there. When they got rid of the cafeteria or the cafe, for vending machines, it's like providing frozen TV dinners. And some of the veterans in wheelchairs can't even access it because they can't reach the vending machine and get that. So there's money there, and I would suggest that nothing should come out of King until everything is fixed there. And I think John stated very well those areas that can be improved. We must do better for our veterans. They truly deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, certainly we are clear on our call to action for bringing ourselves into extraordinary session, looking at stopping, eliminating the future raids, and making sure that we will support that audit tomorrow, as well as the immediate upgrades that could happen very quickly if given approval through the proper channels with the department and the legislature. So with that, we're happy to take any questions that you may have about the situation.
Walker's administration says they're already spending $40 million on upgrades at King. That's not happening quickly enough for you?
We know that they have put in a request in past budgets for improvements. Those were not accepted. The 40 million that you are referring to is through what source?
Walker's administration says that in the state budget they've already allocated $40 million in the next year to begin these upgrades.
These are things that the administration has known about for a few years. And these are things that should have been done 2 years ago, even last year. But they didn't. The governor ignored his own department's DVA's request for the $18.5 million to do these upgrades that I talked about. And they said no, and basically what the governor did was took all the bonding money and spent it on roads. And so for the governor to come in after the fact and say, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, that's great. But where were you 2 years ago? Where were you 3 years ago? This isn't anything new. You know, we've been hearing stories about this for a while now. Senator Lassa, again, can't stress this enough, a year ago, officially asked for an audit trying to underscore the problems up at King, and that was ignored. And then all of a sudden, we have front page headlines all over the state of Wisconsin, very sad headlines, headlines that reflect on us as a society and the legislature and an administration, how we choose to treat veterans, and now the governor's coming in. It's you know, that's great, that's awesome, but we've been asking for this for a while. King's been asking for this for a while. The DVA has been asking this for a little while. So again, I'm glad they're being done. I'm glad the governor's taking his job seriously now. I'm glad the governor's not running for president anymore, because this stuff was ignored when he was out raising money all over the country.
Again, to reiterate the fact that we are asking for something special, extraordinary, immediate. The budget process is a process, and if 40 million would be going into it, we would not be able to see the results of that for another year and a half. We need to do something now. And as a matter of fact, if you want to talk about the audit process itself, when we talk about the scope of it, Senator Lassa has reiterated again, reminding you that she asked a year ago for this audit, that we include Union, Grove, and Chippewa Falls. Now, again, that's a process. That's a very detailed and long process. We need to do something today.
for many of these concerns, we have been talking directly with the agency. But as we look at what we can do in a very short period before the end of the year, we recognize that this is one of the tools that we have as a legislative body to call ourselves back into session. And so I think that that demonstrates the importance of doing this and really how critical this is to do this in a very immediate fashion. And I know that we adjourned very early this year, but I think taxpayers and veterans expect us to do our job throughout the year when emergencies come up, that we can come in and address them and move forward. So I think while the calendar may not have us on the floor, that certainly we need to do our job and be responsible to the taxpayers here in the state to get this done.
Thanks, everyone.
You mentioned a federal report came out today on King.
That was in the cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a time story or an actual federal report.
It's a result of an audit, from what I understand, that was done on a patient that passed away, and that the patient's 94-year-old patient did have instructions to resuscitate, but was not resuscitated. CPR wasn't performed, and King was cited because of that. From what I understand, the department is appealing that, and we'll see what happens as a result of the appeal.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. This is not an attack on the staff that's overworked right now. So we're talking about things that can be done to fix it. And one of the things, of course, is to hire more people. Same thing in corrections. So keep that in mind. We don't want to attack the staff because they're doing the best under very, very difficult circumstances.
Thank you.